My name is Mary, and the day everything broke for the second time in my life began quietly, almost deceptively normal. The first time my world collapsed was when I lost my husband, Daniel. He had served in special operations for most of his life, a man of discipline, quiet strength, and scars he never fully spoke about. We had been married for 45 years. We raised a son, built a home filled with laughter, arguments, and memories that I thought would carry me safely into old age. But grief doesn't ask permission. It just arrives. Daniel had been gone for 7 months when I saw the post. That morning, I followed my usual routine. At 71, routines become survival. I made coffee, sat on the back porch, and watched the early sunlight stretch across my garden. It was the only place that still felt peaceful. The only place where I could pretend, just for a few minutes, that he was still inside the house, maybe reading the newspaper or fixing something that didn't need fixing. Then my phone rang. "Mary, you need to see this," said Helen, a woman from the support group I attended after Daniel passed. Something in her voice made my chest tighten. "What is it?" "It's about Claire and Daniel's medals." I didn't understand at first. My daughter-in-law, Claire, had always been complicated. Polite in public, distant in private. But medals? My hands were already trembling when I opened social media. And then I saw it. There she was, Claire, smiling, standing in what looked like a pawn shop, holding a stack of cash like it was some kind of joke. The caption read, "Quick cash. Finally getting something out of this mess." Behind her, on the glass counter, I saw them. Daniel's medals. Not just decorations. Not just metal. Pieces of his life. His sacrifice. His nightmares. His survival. Things he never bragged about. Things I had watched him earn, piece by piece, through years of silence and pain. I dropped the phone. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Those medals had been displayed in our living room for decades. Every single one had a story, stories he rarely told, but when he did, his voice would change. Softer. Distant. Like he was somewhere else entirely. When our son, Andrew, married Claire, Daniel had taken the time to show her each medal. I remember how proud he looked that day, like he was passing something meaningful into the next generation. After he died, I gave those medals to Andrew. I thought they would stay in the family. I was wrong. I called Andrew immediately. No answer. Again. Nothing. Then Claire. Straight to voicemail. Again. Voicemail. My heart started pounding harder. I sent a message. "I saw what you did. Call me. Now." A minute later, I was blocked. Just like that. Cut off. Dismissed. Erased. I sat there, staring at the blank screen, feeling something deeper than grief. This wasn't loss. This was betrayal. I needed answers, so I called my granddaughter, Emma. She was 15, too young to be caught in this, but old enough to know the truth. "Grandma?" Her voice sounded small. "Emma, sweetheart, do you know anything about your grandfather's medals?" There was a pause. Then a quiet sniff. "Mom sold them last week," she said. My stomach dropped. She said they didn't matter anymore. That nobody cared about that old stuff. Old stuff. I closed my eyes. "Where is she now?" I asked. "In Mexico. With Ryan." Ryan. Her voice hardened slightly. Her boyfriend. The words hit harder than I expected. 7 months. That's all it took. I felt something cold settle inside me. "She left 3 days ago," Emma continued. "She's been going out a lot lately, says she's finally free." Free. From what? From my husband? From the man who helped raise her child? From the man who fought battles she would never understand? "Grandma," Emma's voice broke. "Can I come stay with you for a while?" That was it. That was the moment something inside me changed. "Yes," I said immediately. Of course. You can come anytime. That evening, after Emma arrived and fell asleep in the guest room, I sat alone in Daniel's chair. The house felt different. Not empty. It had felt empty for months. But now it felt violated. I looked around at the photos still hanging on the walls. The life we built. The man I loved. And then I thought about those medals. Sitting on some cold counter. Sold like junk. Something inside me hardened. The pawn shop was across town. I knew the area. Not somewhere Daniel would have ever gone. Not somewhere his legacy belonged. I didn't care how much it would cost. I didn't care what I had to do. I was going to get them back. All of them. But as I sat there, staring into the quiet darkness of my living room, I felt something else rising alongside my determination. A question. Why would Claire do this so easily? Not just sell them, but smile.
Post it.
Celebrate it. That wasn't just greed. That was something colder. Something deeper. And for the first time since Daniel died, I began to wonder if I had truly known what his last months had been like. I pulled his old jacket closer around me, breathing in the faint scent that still lingered. I promise you, I whispered into the silence, this isn't over. And I meant it, because something told me the medals were only the beginning. The next morning, I didn't wait for the sun to fully rise. I was already dressed, already standing by the door with my keys in my hand, my mind sharper than it had been in months. Grief had dulled me, slowed me down, wrapped everything in fog, but now there was something else pushing me forward. Purpose. And beneath it, something darker. A need to understand. The pawn shop looked exactly how you'd expect. Wedged between a liquor store and a laundromat, its windows covered in faded signs promising fast cash and no questions asked. For a moment, I just stood outside, staring at the door, imagining Daniel walking beside me, shaking his head at the whole situation. He would have hated this. Not because of the place, but because of what it meant, what had been done. I pushed the door open. A small bell rang overhead. The air inside smelled faintly of metal and dust. Behind the counter stood a young man, maybe in his late 20s, tattoos running down both arms. But his eyes were kind. Too kind for a place like this. "Morning, ma'am. What can I do for you?" My voice almost failed me, but I forced it steady. "My daughter-in-law came here a few days ago. She sold some military medals. They belong to my husband." Recognition flashed across his face instantly. That told me everything. "The Special Forces ones?" he asked carefully. I nodded. He exhaled slowly, like he already knew where this was going. "Yeah, I remember her." "Are they still here?" I asked, my heart already bracing for the answer. He hesitated, and that hesitation was enough. "Some," he finally said. "Not all." The word hit like a dull blow to my chest. "Which ones?" I asked. He turned to his computer, typing quickly. I watched his face as he read the screen, watched the shift in his expression, from neutral to apologetic. "The top ones are gone," he said quietly. "The Distinguished Service Cross, the Silver Star, those went almost immediately. A collector bought them. Paid good money, too." I gripped the edge of the counter.
Gone. Just like that.
Scattered into someone else's collection. Stripped of meaning. Reduced to rarity and price. "What's left?" I asked. "A couple of service medals. Not the big ones." I closed my eyes for a second, forcing myself not to break. "Not here. Not in front of a stranger." "I'll take them," I said. He nodded, already moving to retrieve them. As he carefully placed the remaining medals on the counter, I felt something twist inside me. These were still Daniel's. Still part of him, but incomplete, like someone had torn pages out of a book. As I reached for them, something caught my eye, a small security camera mounted in the corner of the ceiling. Do you keep recordings?
I asked. Yeah, he said.
For about a month. I took a breath. I want to see the footage from when she came in. He paused, studying me. This a legal issue? He asked. In a way, I said. Those medals were never hers to sell. That wasn't entirely true. Legally, maybe they were. But morally? Never. He nodded slowly. All right. Give me a minute. He turned the monitor toward me. And then I watched. Claire walked in like she owned the place.
Confident.
Relaxed.
Smiling.
She laid Daniel's medals on the counter like they were nothing more than jewelry she'd grown tired of. She joked.
Laughed.
Even negotiated the price like it was some kind of game. There was no hesitation.
No sadness.
No respect. And when the deal was done, she took out her phone.
Posed.
Smiled. And snapped that picture. The same one I had seen. My stomach turned. Can I get a copy of this? I asked quietly. He hesitated again, then nodded. Yeah, I think you should. 10 minutes later, I walked out of that shop with a small box of medals and a flash drive in my pocket. But more importantly, I walked out with certainty. This wasn't just thoughtless behavior. This was deliberate, calculated,
Cold.
Claire hadn't just moved on. She had erased him. When I arrived at Andrew's house later that day, everything looked perfect from the outside. The lawn trimmed, flowers arranged neatly. The kind of house that tells the world everything is fine. It made me sick. Emma opened the door before I even knocked. Grandma, she said, throwing her arms around me. I held her tightly, feeling how fragile she was beneath that strength she tried so hard to show. I'm here, I whispered. Inside, the house felt wrong. Too clean. Too empty. Not physically empty. The furniture was there. The decorations, the carefully curated aesthetic Claire always cared about. But Daniel was gone. Not just gone physically.
Erased.
Where are his photos? I asked. Emma hesitated. Mom took them down. When? Right after the funeral. The words hit harder than anything I'd seen so far. Where are they now? In the garage. Of course they were. We walked out there together, and as soon as Emma opened one of the storage bins, I felt my chest tighten again. Photo albums. His uniform. Old letters. Books he loved. All thrown together. No care. No order. Like things waiting to be forgotten. I knelt down slowly, running my fingers over the edge of a photo album. There we were, younger, smiling, alive in ways that felt almost foreign now. She said it was healthier this way, Emma whispered. To move on. I didn't respond, because I knew something Emma didn't yet. This wasn't about healing. This was about control. As we continued sorting through the boxes, Emma pulled out something small. A worn notebook. I remember this, she said. Grandpa always carried it. I took it carefully. I recognized it instantly. Daniel's planner. He had carried one his entire life. Military habit. Structure.
Discipline.
But when I opened it, I realized this one was different. It wasn't just appointments. It was something else.
Notes.
Short entries. Fragments. And as I read the first few lines, my blood ran cold. April 3rd. C hid my medication again.
Says I don't need it.
April 9th. Another argument. She says I'm embarrassing her. April 14th. Bad night. She told me to sleep downstairs so I don't disturb normal people. I stopped breathing. My hands started shaking. This wasn't just tension. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was something far worse. And suddenly, everything began to shift. The way Daniel had sounded on the phone those last months. The pauses. The forced calm. The way he always said, "Everything's fine." It wasn't fine. It had never been fine. and I hadn't seen it. I sat there on the cold garage floor, the notebook open in my hands, while something inside me broke all over again. But this time, it wasn't just grief. It was anger. Real, sharp, undeniable anger. Because the truth was starting to take shape. And it was uglier than I ever imagined. I looked at Emma, who was watching me carefully. "Grandma, what is it?" I closed the notebook slowly. "It's nothing," I said softly. But that was a lie, because I already knew. This was no longer just about the medals. This was about what had been happening behind closed doors. And for the first time, I started to wonder if Daniel's death had really been just a tragedy, or something much more complicated. I slipped the notebook into my bag. Claire thought she had buried everything, but she hadn't. She had left something behind, and I was going to find the rest, no matter what it cost. That night, after Emma fell asleep, I didn't even try to rest. Sleep felt like something from another life, something for people who didn't carry questions that cut this deep. I sat at the kitchen table with Daniel's notebook in front of me, the small lamp casting a weak circle of light, and for a long time, I just stared at it, like if I waited long enough, the words inside would change. Like maybe I had misunderstood. But I hadn't. I opened it again. This time, I forced myself to read everything. Not just a few lines. All of it. Page after page. Entry after entry. At first, they were short, controlled, almost clinical, the way Daniel had always been when dealing with anything difficult. He never complained directly.
He documented, observed, endured.
April 18th, she says I'm using PTSD as an excuse. April 22nd, missed dosage again. Can't find pills. May 2nd, she laughed when I asked for help. Each sentence was like a small fracture. On its own, maybe survivable. But together, they told a story. A slow unraveling. A man trying to hold himself together while someone quietly pulled him apart. As the entries continued, the tone changed. The controls started slipping. The sentences got longer. Messier. More human. May 15th, I tried to explain what it feels like. She said I should act normal. I don't know what that means anymore. May 27th, bad night. Couldn't breathe. She recorded me. Said she might show people what I'm really like. I froze. Read that line again. And again. Recorded him. For what? Mockery? Control? Leverage? My chest tightened. This wasn't just cruelty. This was calculated. I kept reading. June 3rd, she had friends over. Told them I was unstable. I heard them laughing. June 11th, I'm tired. That entry was underlined.
Twice.
I pressed my hand over my mouth, trying to steady my breathing. I had lived with this man for decades. I knew his silences. I knew his strength. I knew the way he carried pain, quietly, without burdening anyone. And yet, I hadn't seen this, hadn't heard it, hadn't understood what was happening right in front of me. The last few pages were the hardest. The handwriting changed, less steady, slightly rushed, like the thoughts were coming faster than he could organize them. June 18th, she says everyone would be better off without me. My vision blurred. June 20th. Maybe she's right. I closed the notebook. I couldn't breathe. The room felt too small.
Too heavy.
I stood up suddenly, pushing the chair back, needing air, needing anything that wasn't this suffocating truth pressing down on me. I walked outside, into the cold night, wrapping my arms around myself as if that could hold me together. She didn't just hurt him, I whispered. She broke him. And the worst part? He believed her. That thought hit harder than anything else. Daniel, the man who had survived things I could never fully comprehend, had been worn down not by war, but by someone inside his own home. someone he should have been safe with. I stayed outside for a long time, letting the silence settle around me, trying to make sense of what I had just read. But there was no sense to it, just a growing, undeniable truth. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't just emotional distance. This was abuse. And suddenly, the timeline of everything started to shift in my mind. The way his voice had sounded weaker those last months. The way he stopped visiting as often. The way he avoided staying too long when he did. The way he always said, "I'm just tired." He wasn't just tired. He was surviving. And no one, not even me, realized how bad it had gotten. When I finally went back inside, I didn't sit down again. I went straight to my bag, pulled out the flash drive from the pawn shop. Then I remembered something else.
Mike.
Daniel's closest friend from his service days. If anyone knew anything, it would be him. I grabbed my phone and called. He answered on the second ring. "Mary?" His voice was steady, but there was something underneath it, something like expectation. "Mike." "I found something," I said. A pause. "What kind of something?" Daniel kept notes. "About Claire." Another pause. Longer this time. "I was afraid of that," he said quietly. My heart skipped. "What do you mean?" I asked. He exhaled slowly. "We suspected something wasn't right." He never said it directly, but you can tell when a man is being worn down, especially someone like Daniel. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. "We tried to get him to talk," Mike said, "but he shut it down every time. Said everything was fine. Said he didn't want to make things worse." Of course he did. Even at the end, he was still protecting her. I closed my eyes. "There's more," Mike added. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten again. "What?" "He gave me something about a month before he died." My grip on the phone tightened. "What kind of something?" "A flash drive." My heart started pounding. He said if anything ever happened, I should hold on to it until the right moment. Silence filled the space between us. And, in that silence, everything shifted again. "Mike," I said slowly, "I think this is that moment." Another pause. Then, "I think you're right." We agreed to meet the next morning. After I hung up, I stood there in the middle of the kitchen, completely still. 2 flash drives. One from the pawn shop. One from Daniel himself. The weight of it all settled over me. This wasn't just a story anymore. This was evidence.
Truth.
And whatever was on that second drive, I already knew it wouldn't be easy to hear. But I also knew something else. Claire had made a mistake. A big one. She thought she had erased everything. Photos. Memories. Medals. But she hadn't. Daniel had left something behind. Not just pain. Not just silence. But proof. And now, it was in my hands. I looked toward the hallway where Emma was sleeping, then back at the notebook still lying open on the table. "I'm going to fix this," I whispered. "Not just for him, but for all of us." Because the truth was no longer buried. It was waiting. And tomorrow, I was going to uncover it, no matter how much it hurt. The next morning felt different. Not lighter. Nothing about this was light, but sharper. Focused. Like everything had finally aligned into something I could act on. Grief had kept me frozen for months, but now it had transformed into something else entirely. I wasn't just mourning Daniel anymore. I was standing up for him. I met Mike at a small diner just outside town. It was the kind of place Daniel used to like. Simple, quiet, filled with people who didn't ask too many questions. When I walked in, I spotted Mike immediately. He looked older than the last time I'd seen him, but there was still that same solid presence about him. The kind of man who had seen too much and learned to carry it anyway. He stood when he saw me. "Mary," he said, pulling me into a brief, firm hug. "Mike." We sat down, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. There was too much between us. Shared memories, unspoken regrets, and now, the truth we were both circling. "You brought it?" I asked finally. He nodded and reached into his jacket, pulling out a small black flash drive. "This is what he gave me," he said. I never opened it. Didn't feel right unless something was wrong. I looked at it in his hand. Something was wrong. "Thank you," I said quietly, taking it. Mike studied my face. "You already know, don't you?" "Not everything," I replied, "but enough." He nodded slowly. "Then you should see what's on that." We didn't stay long. Neither of us had the patience for small talk anymore. On the drive back home, my thoughts were racing, not chaotic, but intense, focused. Like every piece of the puzzle was finally moving into place, whether I was ready for it or not. When I got home, Emma was still at a friend's house. I was grateful for that. She didn't need to hear what I was about to hear. I sat down at the kitchen table, my laptop already open. For a moment, I just stared at the two flash drives lying side by side. One from the pawn shop, one from Daniel. Past and truth. Then I picked up his. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I plugged it in. A folder appeared. Inside, audio files.
Dozens of them.
Each labeled by date. My chest tightened. Recordings. I clicked the first one. There was a brief moment of silence, then Daniel's voice filled the room. Slightly distorted, but unmistakably his. "Claire, have you seen my medication?" My breath caught instantly. Then her voice.
Sharp.
Irritated. "Not this again, Daniel. I'm not your nurse." "I keep it in the same place," he said, calm but strained. "It's not there." "Maybe you already took it," she snapped. "You lose track of everything anyway." "That's not true. I need those. You know that." A scoff. "Oh, please. Your condition isn't that bad. You act like you're still out there in combat." Silence. Then Daniel again, quieter this time. "It doesn't work like that." Another scoff. "You just don't want to get better." I paused the recording. My hands were shaking now. Not from uncertainty. From rage. Pure, controlled rage. I pressed play again. File after file. Each one worse than the last. Claire mocking him, dismissing his PTSD, calling him weak, a burden, an embarrassment. At one point, she laughed, actually laughed, while he tried to explain what he was feeling. Another recording. "I had another episode last night," Daniel said. "Well, maybe if you stopped acting crazy, people wouldn't look at you like that," she replied coldly. "I can't control it." "Yes, you can. You just don't try hard enough." I stopped again. Closed my eyes. Breathed. But there was more. I forced myself to continue. The final recording was the one that broke something inside me completely. "I found them," Daniel said. "Found what?" Claire asked. "My medication. In the trash." A pause. Then, So? "Claire, these are prescribed. I need them." "You're better off without them," she said flatly. "They make you weird. They keep me stable. They make you pathetic." Silence. Then Daniel again. "You threw them away." "Yes," she said, "because I'm tired of living with a broken man." The words echoed in the room. Broken man. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "I'm done, Daniel," she continued. "I didn't sign up for this. I want a normal life." "And what happens to me?" he asked. Another pause. Cold. Empty. "That's not my problem anymore." The recording ended. I stared at the screen. Everything inside me went quiet. Not calm. Not peaceful. Just still. Like something fundamental had shifted. Now I knew. Not suspected. Not guessed. Knew. She didn't just hurt him. She dismantled him,
piece by piece.
until there was nothing left holding him up, and then she walked away. I sat there for a long time, the silence pressing in around me, the weight of everything settling deep into my chest. Then my phone rang. It was Andrew. "Mom," he said, his voice tense. "Is Emma with you?" "She stayed at a friend's last night," I said.
Why?
"It's Claire. She's coming back early." My grip tightened.
Why?
"I don't know. Something's off. I confronted her about the medals yesterday, and she got defensive. Really defensive." "Of course she did. She said she'd be home tonight," he continued. I think she knows something's wrong." I looked at the laptop, at the recordings, at the truth. "She should be worried," I said quietly. "Mom, what's going on?" Andrew asked. There was a pause. A long one. Then I made a decision. "Come over tomorrow," I said. "I need to show you something." "Is this about Dad?" he asked. "Yes." Silence. Then, "Okay." After the call ended, I sat back slowly. Everything was in motion now. Claire was coming back. Andrew was starting to question things. And I had the truth. Not just feelings. Not just memories. Proof. Real, undeniable proof. I looked down at Daniel's notebook, then back at the screen. "You didn't just leave me memories," I whispered. "You left me the truth." And now, it was my turn to decide what to do with it. Because one thing was certain. Claire had built her life on a lie. And very soon, that lie was going to fall apart. Sunday morning came with a strange kind of clarity. Not peace. I don't think peace was possible anymore, but something close to certainty. For months, I had been drifting through my days, reacting, surviving, trying not to fall apart. But now, everything felt deliberate. Every step mattered. Every decision had weight. And for the first time since Daniel died, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Andrew arrived just after 10. The moment I opened the door, I saw it in his face: confusion, exhaustion, and something else, fear. Not fear of me, but fear of what he might be about to hear. "Mom," he said, pulling me into a quick hug. "What's going on?" I didn't answer right away. I just stepped aside and let him in. "Sit down," I said gently. He followed me into the kitchen, glancing around like he expected something to jump out at him. I noticed how much he looked like Daniel in that moment. The same posture, the same way he braced himself before something difficult. I placed the laptop in front of him. "There's something you need to hear," I said. He frowned. "What do you mean?" "It's from your father." That got his attention. Recorded before he died. His expression changed instantly. "Recorded? What are you talking about?" "Just listen," I said softly. I pressed play. The first recording filled the room. At first, Andrew just listened, his face neutral, trying to process what he was hearing. Then slowly that neutrality cracked. His brows pulled together. His jaw tightened. His breathing changed. By the third recording, he leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like he couldn't quite believe it. By the fifth, he stood up. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice shaking. "It's the truth," I said. "No," he said, pacing now. "No, this doesn't make sense. Claire wouldn't. She wouldn't do this." I didn't argue. I just played the next one. And the next. And the next. Each one stripping away another layer of denial. Each one forcing reality into the space he had been trying to protect. When the final recording ended, the one where she admitted throwing away Daniel's medication, Andrew didn't move. For a long time, he just stood there, silent. Then slowly, he sat back down. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "I know," I replied. "I should have known," he added, his voice cracking. "I saw things, arguments, tension, but he always told me everything was fine. He always defended her."
He was protecting you, I said.
Andrew shook his head. He was protecting her. That silence came back again, heavier this time. Then something shifted in his expression. Anger. Real anger.
She's been lying, he said.
To everyone. Yes. She told people he died during a training accident, he continued. That he saved someone. That he. I know, I said quietly. Andrew looked at me, stunned. You knew. I suspected. Now I'm sure. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing again. She's been telling everyone that story. At work. To friends. Even to Emma. She needed the image, I said. The grieving widow. The hero's wife. Andrew stopped. And the money, he added. I looked up at him. What do you mean? He pulled out his phone, opening something quickly. I checked our accounts yesterday, he said. After Emma told me about the medals. Something felt off. He turned the screen toward me. Numbers. Transactions. Withdrawals. Large ones. Almost $40,000, he said. In the last few months. My stomach dropped. From where? Everything was joint, he said bitterly. Savings. Investments. Even the account we set up for Emma's college. I felt cold all over. She used that?
I asked. He nodded.
Trips.
Shopping.
Hotels. And I'm guessing that guy she's been seeing.
Ryan.
The name echoed in my mind. How long? I asked. Andrew hesitated. 3 months. Maybe more. 3 months. That meant
Before.
Before Daniel had even been gone long. The room felt smaller again. Tighter. She's been building a whole story, Andrew said slowly. A version of reality that benefits her. Yes, I said. And now we know what the real one looks like.
He looked at the laptop.
At the recordings. Then back at me. What do we do? That question hung in the air. Because this was the moment. The turning point. Everything we had found, everything we knew, it all led to this. We tell the truth, I said. Andrew studied my face.
How?
I took a slow breath. She's organizing that charity event tomorrow, I said. The one for Daniel's legacy. Andrew's expression darkened immediately.
Yeah.
She's been planning it for weeks. Wants to raise money in his name. Using lies, I said. He nodded. And everyone will be there, I continued. Military contacts.
Friends.
Community members. Andrew's eyes widened slightly. You want to expose her there, he said. Yes. Silence. That's public, he said. It needs to be. It'll be messy. I know. He looked away for a moment, thinking. Then back at me. She's going to lose everything, he said quietly. I held his gaze. She already made that choice. Another pause. Then he nodded. I'm in. Relief washed over me, stronger than I expected. You're sure? I asked. He didn't hesitate.
He's my father, Andrew said.
And she destroyed him. That was all I needed. We'll need everything, he continued. The recordings. The footage from the pawn shop. The bank statements. I have the footage, I said. I'll gather the financial records, he replied. And Mike will help, I added. He's already involved. Andrew nodded again, more firmly this time. We do this right, he said.
No emotion.
Just facts. Yes. But we both knew there would be emotion. A lot of it. Later that evening, after Andrew left to prepare everything on his end, I sat alone again in the living room. The house was quiet, but not empty. Not anymore. Because for the first time, I felt like Daniel was there. Not as a memory, not as a loss, but as something guiding me forward. You trusted me, I whispered. You left this for a reason. I looked at the box of medals on the table, at the notebook, at the laptop. Everything was ready. Everything was aligned. Tomorrow, the truth would come out. Not in whispers, not in private conversations, but in front of everyone. Claire had built her image carefully,
Piece by piece.
smile by smile, lie by lie, and tomorrow, it would all collapse. I stood up slowly, turning off the lights. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel lost. I felt focused,
Calm.
ready, because this wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't even about justice anymore. It was about something simpler, something stronger.
Truth.
And tomorrow, everyone was going to hear it. Monday arrived with a stillness that felt almost unnatural. The sky was clear, the air calm, and for a brief moment, it felt like the world had no idea what was about to happen. But I did. Every step I took that morning carried weight. I chose my clothes carefully. A dark blue dress Daniel had always liked, simple but dignified. I pinned one of his small service pins to my chest, right over my heart. Not for show. For him. By the time I arrived at the venue, the parking lot was already filling up. The event was being held in a large hotel ballroom, polished floors, soft lighting, everything arranged to create an atmosphere of respect and admiration. Claire had planned this well. Of course she had. Image was everything to her. Inside, banners hung along the walls with Daniel's photo, smiling, strong, captured in a version of himself that the public could easily admire. Beneath each image were carefully written descriptions of his heroic sacrifice. I felt something twist inside me as I read them, not because they honored him, but because they were lies. People were already gathering, some in uniform, others in formal attire. Conversations filled the room, quiet, respectful, unaware. They had come to honor a man they believed they understood. They didn't. Not yet. Mike found me near the entrance. He was dressed in his formal uniform, standing tall, but his expression was serious. "You ready?" he asked. I nodded. "Everything set?" I asked in return. He glanced toward the back of the room. "Audio systems ready. Andrew's handling the visuals. We just wait for the right moment." I took a breath. That was the hardest part. Waiting. Andrew arrived shortly after, with Emma beside him. She looked nervous, but there was something steady in her eyes now, something that hadn't been there before.
Strength.
Truth had a way of doing that. "Mom," Andrew said quietly, "we're ready." I placed a hand over his. "Whatever happens, we stay calm." He nodded. Then the room shifted. Claire had arrived. She entered exactly how I expected, composed, elegant, wearing black like a symbol of grief she didn't truly carry. Her expression was perfect, controlled, sad but strong, the kind of performance people believe because they want to. She moved through the crowd, greeting people, accepting condolences, placing a hand over her heart at just the right moments. If I didn't know the truth, I might have believed her too. Eventually, the event began. People took their seats. We sat near the front, exactly where Claire wanted us. The grieving family, visible, supportive, part of her story. The irony was almost unbearable. At precisely noon, she stepped onto the stage. The room quieted instantly. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice soft, emotional, perfectly measured. "6 months ago, I lost my husband, the love of my life." I felt Andrew tense beside me. I placed my hand gently on his arm. "Stay steady," I whispered. Claire continued. "Daniel was more than a soldier. He was a hero. A man who gave everything, including his life, to protect others." Murmurs of agreement moved through the audience. "He died during a training exercise," she said, her voice trembling just enough. "Saving a fellow teammate. That's who he was." selfless,
brave.
unbreakable, unbreakable. The word echoed in my mind. I almost stood up right then, but I waited, because this had to be done right. Claire went on, speaking about legacy, about sacrifice, about the foundation she was creating in his name. She painted a picture so convincing, so polished, that for a moment I could almost see the version of reality she had built. Almost. But then I remembered the recordings, the notebook, the truth, and that illusion shattered instantly. Mike leaned slightly toward me. "It's time," he said quietly. I nodded. Then I stood up. "Excuse me," I said, my voice clear enough to carry across the room. Claire paused. Her eyes found mine. For a split second,
I saw it. Fear.
but it was gone just as quickly, replaced by that same practiced smile. "Mary," she said smoothly, "would you like to say a few words?" "Yes," I said, and I walked to the stage. Each step felt steady, grounded.
Certain.
I wasn't shaking. I wasn't afraid, because I wasn't alone. I stepped beside her, turning to face the audience. "My name is Mary," I began. "I'm Daniel's wife." The room was silent. "I've listened to everything that's been said today," I continued, "and I need to correct something." Claire shifted beside me. "Mary, maybe this isn't." "It is," I said, cutting her off. The room grew even quieter. "Daniel did not die saving someone during a training exercise," I said. "That story is false." A ripple moved through the audience. Claire's composure cracked. "That's not," she started. "Let him speak for himself," I said. I nodded toward Andrew. And then Daniel's voice filled the room.
Clear.
Unmistakable. The first recording played, then the second, then the third. Gasps spread through the audience. People shifted in their seats. Some stood. Claire's face drained of color. "Turn that off," she snapped, reaching for the microphone. But it was too late. The truth was already there.
Raw.
Unfiltered. Impossible to deny. When the final recording ended, the silence that followed was heavier than anything I had ever felt. "This is what my husband lived with," I said, my voice steady. "Not heroism in his final days. Not glory, but pain, isolation, and cruelty." Claire shook her head, her voice breaking. "You're twisting things." "No," I said. "I'm revealing them." Andrew stepped forward then. "And we have more," he said. "Bank records. Proof of money taken from our family. From our daughter." All eyes turned to Claire. "There's also this," I added. The screen behind us lit up. The pawn shop footage. Claire smiling. Holding cash. Daniel's medals on the counter. The room reacted immediately.
Shock.
Disbelief. Anger. "You sold his medals," I said. "For vacation." Claire looked around, panicked now. "This isn't what it looks like." "It's exactly what it looks like," I replied. Emma stood up then, her voice small but clear. "He wasn't broken," she said. "You made him feel that way." That was it. That was the moment everything collapsed. Claire had nothing left. No performance. No control. No story. Just truth. And consequences. "This event is over," I said, turning back to the audience. "If you want to honor Daniel, honor the truth. Not a lie." I stepped away from the podium. Andrew and Emma joined me. Mike stood close behind us. And as we walked out of that room, I didn't look back, because I didn't need to. The truth had done what it needed to do. Outside, the air felt different. Lighter. Not because the pain was gone, but because it was no longer hidden. I looked up at the sky for a moment, letting the silence settle around me. "We did it," I whispered. And for the first time since he was gone, I felt something close to peace. Not the kind that forgets, but the kind that remembers. Honestly,